Welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today we're going to do a review on a 2012 Jaguar XF Portfolio 5-liter naturally aspirated engine. This is the last of the naturally aspirated engines. Now, the vehicle we're looking at today is actually my own vehicle. So I'm going to talk a little later in the video about the Jag ownership experience, as it's very different what a lot of people think they're going to have in a very positive way. So first things first, let's take a look at this vehicle. So as I mentioned, this is a 2012. I've actually owned this vehicle since about 2015. Currently has about 90,000 kilometers. I purchased it with about 70,000 kilometers. It is a rear-wheel drive car. Now, for most people, they're going to look at this car and think that it's just a large luxury sedan, and that's it. And actually, it's a sports car in a sedan body. So I'll give you some stats. As I mentioned, rear-wheel drive, 6-speed transmission, 5-liter naturally aspirated engine. We're going to take a look under the bonnet or the hood in a little bit. 5-liter naturally aspirated engine. Jag rates it at 385 horsepower and 380 foot-pounds of torque. And I believe, like the German manufacturers, the BMW and the Mercedes of the world, they've actually underrated this vehicle. Now, I'll apologize up front, the car is not super clean. It's actually just rained. We came back from a run, and now it's nice and sunny and dry, and I thought I would take advantage to do this video. It does run on large performance tires, 255s. These were the optional 20-inch rims. We have recently put on Falcon tires, and these have been a great tire, lots of grip, great performance with a lot of value built in. As we walk around the car itself, you'll notice large doors. Now, the car weighs in at about 4,200 pounds, lots of chrome and lots of luxury. As you come around back, you will notice that it has a nice large dual exhaust, and those are true dual exhausts. Let's take a look inside at some of the features and the luxury that a Jaguar XF will bring to you. Now, as soon as you open it up, you'll notice a nice large door opening. Of course, the Jaguar nameplate on the sill, all leather seating, perforated leather, of course, and the perforated leather is because the vehicle is actually equipped with cooled seats. Now, one thing I love about the Jag, as soon as you step in and the key's in your pocket, you'll notice that our start button actually pulsates like the pulsating heart of a Jaguar. When you push and hold this, start it up, our steering wheel is a power steering wheel. It lowers to the preset spot and your seat then adjusts. Now, one thing that I've done is I had the aircon off, because when you start the vehicle or when you put your air conditioning on, the vents open up when you've activated that system. If you're driving windows down and not using the air conditioning, it actually closes, keeps dust out of the vehicle. Now, we do have a smart steering wheel here, so you have your radio controls off on this side, your voice commands here, you have your cruise over on this side, so it's right at your fingertips. A beautifully wrapped leather steering wheel. Our dash has 2 traditional gauges with a digital cluster in the center, so it will give you information like your speed in digital, but you can also look at your mileage, your range, you know, your average fuel economy, all these type of features. Now, this has just been recently reset. We also have automatic lights, automatic high beams, which is a nice feature, and rain sensing wipers on board. High fidelity speakers all around. And not only do you get the fine leather, for example, here at the top of the door, all leather inserts along the stainless steel, or the, stainless steel, brushed aluminum is what I meant to say, right along the dash. But when you look closely at the dashboard, this is all nice, nice sewn leather. Just absolutely beautiful fit and finish. And then this model is an XF Portfolio, which added additional options over the traditional XF. And that will be things like, when you look up, you'll notice our headliner is not the traditional material. It's actually all Alcantara. They also have some little great features. You know, your dome lights are, and now I'm not going to be able to get them activated. They're very light touch sensitive, or even motion sensitive as it's a little darker. We have a nice large sunroof here as well, and parking sensors all around, rear backup camera, and then our main stereo and air conditioning controls are here. Of course, you have automatic climate control. It's dual zone as well. Nice little feature is our shifter is a pop-up shifter, and then we have different mode buttons here at our fingertips. So there is a snow mode because of the power that this car puts out. So I mentioned earlier, 385 horsepower, 380 foot-pounds of torque. That results in a launch of 0 to 60 or 0 to 60 miles per hour, approximately 0 to 100 kilometers per hour, in 5 to 5.5 seconds, depending on the mode you're in. So our snow mode actually reduces the throttle feel, meaning it's not as reactive, really reducing down the horsepower and the amount that the car is going to jerk around in the sensitivity if you give it a little too much throttle. Of course, here we have our traction control button. This button is our speed limiter warning, so you can set it, and if you go over a certain speed, it is going to warn you. And then this is our dynamic mode button. So not only do we have on our shifter our sport mode, but you can actually then put it in dynamic mode. And what dynamic mode does, it actually loosens up a little bit of the traction control, loosens up a little bit of the slip control, enhances throttle response and progressiveness. Jaguar defines it as an extremely dynamic way of driving, hence why they call it dynamic mode, a very sporty driving, almost meant for track days, which is a little hard to believe out of a four-door sedan that weighs approximately 4,200 pounds. Now, one thing I didn't point out is that you'll notice right behind the wheel we do have paddle shifters, so you can set this vehicle in manual mode, whether it's just regular drive, sport mode, or dynamic added to any of those modes, and manual. What's really nice is if you're using it on the highway, you exit the highway, you're in regular drive mode, not sport, regular drive mode, and then you start to cruise down city streets and you stop using the manual, it will actually time itself out and go back to drive. Now, from a audio perspective, we have a large screen here in the center. Of course, we have our audio controls. There is Bluetooth on board, satellite radio. You can actually run some videos on this screen. Plus, it actually has a hard drive setting in the My Music mode, so that you can not only listen to DVDs, CDs, or at the time, of course, iPods were set up for this, but you can actually take CDs that you have and store them on the hard drive so that you don't have to carry those CDs around. They'll play directly off that hard drive. Now, a couple of nice little features. You have a couple of compartments here. Here we have a 12-volt power plug, which is really for your cigarette lighter essentially, and some additional storage. We have cup holders right here, and then some storage under the center console where you would normally hook up your iPod or auxiliary input or USBs for the audio system itself. Now, as I mentioned, the car does have heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, lots of natural wood inserts. There is a valet mode so that if you do happen to go somewhere with valet, you can lock someone out from changing any of the settings, and it limits the car power. Now, our glove box is operated by that power button, and of course all windows are rapid up, rapid down. Now, a couple of neat features. I'm going to spin this right around. A neat little feature that you don't tend to find on a lot of cars is actually this privacy shade that raises up, and you can use that when you're parking to provide some extra shade on a sunny day to the back. It's also meant that if this was a chauffeur driven car, you could have some privacy for your back passenger as you're driving down the road on top of the deeply tinted windows. So a great little feature overall. Lots of space in the back. It's a nice large sedan. You can sit 5 people in here if you really wanted. And this vehicle just has a beautiful sound to it, which we're going to give you a sampling of when you start the vehicle up. Full power seats. And again, just the overall quality is absolutely phenomenal in the way that the vehicle is put together. So let's go outside and show you that engine. Okay, now we're outside. Let's talk a little bit about this car and its construction. When this car started in the 2009 model year, it was constructed of a large amount of aluminum. There is some steel structure. When it moved into the next generation, approximately in the 2014 model year, it went to an all aluminum structure, giving it a little bit less weight. But you'll notice the amount of aluminum used in this XF just from things like our hood, or as our British cousins say, the bonnet. That is an all aluminum hood, super light. But really, what you really want to see is this engine compartment. So as I mentioned earlier, it's a 5-liter engine. You'll see the Jaguar cover that just makes the engine compartment nice and pretty over the engine versus just seeing a raw intake. What's special to note here is if you look at the airbox on this side and an airbox on this side, both feeding into the engine to maximize intake. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's a dual exhaust, and this is a true dual performance exhaust. So Jaguar has set up this engine to really develop a lot of power. Now, in the 2009 to 2012 model years, you had a choice of a 5-liter naturally aspirated engine that you're seeing here, or a 5-liter supercharged engine in the XFRs. 2012 was the last year for the 5-liter engines. The XFRs continued with the 5-liter supercharged engine, which is rated up at 550, and there's a 575 variant. After 2012, the 5-liter was replaced with a 6-cylinder supercharged engine. Now it develops about the same amount of power and actually has about the same mileage rating. On this 5-liter, cruising on regular cruising, brisk driving, so not getting into the throttle crazily but not being ginger with it, you will average approximately 23 to 26 miles per gallon, which is not bad for a car that weighs over 4,200 pounds and has a performance engine in it. If you like liters per 100 kilometers, that's going to be about 9.5 to about 10.5 liters per 100 kilometers. And today in 2023, there's a number of 4-cylinder turbocharged engines that are getting that kind of fuel economy, and yet here we have a naturally aspirated. Now, I chose the naturally aspirated V8 because of the power, the sound that you naturally get. You don't have to wait for turbos to spool up. You don't have to wait for superchargers to spool up. You have a lot more instantaneous power, which is really key for passing on highways at higher speeds. And then the V8s, if you're doing a fair amount of highway driving, the V8s actually get some pretty good fuel economy because they're not revving high up in the rev range. Now let's take a look at some of the other features. As I mentioned, we have two 55/35/20s on the vehicle. We've recently put Falcon tires on board, and they're the ZX60s. The reason I did that is our tire guy that I work with recommended them to be an outstanding tire, which replaced the Continentals, very similar grip and handling, but at a pretty value-oriented price point. Falcon is really known in the drifting and the performance marketplace itself, little less in the consumers, so they tend to keep their tires a little more value oriented over the big names. Now in the back here, something that is really usable beyond our backup camera is the amount of storage space that you get. There is a pass-through right in the center for smaller items like skis, etc. And then we have this beautiful dual exhaust. Of course, all the lighting is LEDs. You have your safety equipment like your backup parking sensors, front parking sensors, blind spot notification, which is a nice touch, especially on a 2012 model year vehicle. Nice chrome accents that, especially with this black, just accent the vehicle. And then as you look closely, you'll notice the performance orientation. Just look at the size of our rear brakes and our rear calipers. They're a really good size. Multi pistons for the fronts. I don't quite remember right now the rears. I mean, look at the size of those rotors and the caliper. They're just massive. Now, as I mentioned, I've just come back yesterday, rain, the car's a little bit dirtier and haven't had a chance to wash it due to the weather. Wanted to bring you this video just as a general overview. Now let's start up the car and give you an idea of what it sounds like. Now, the vehicle has a nice growl upon startup. When you're briskly driving the vehicle, you will actually hear some little valves in the muffler open up. Now, a very quiet running engine for a large enough V8 at 5-liter displacement. Now, we were talking about earlier the Jaguar ownership experience. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? It's a car that's built for luxury with a sport heritage behind it, really good power, but you hear all these rumors out there of Jaguars not being reliable, etc. And prior to 09, I can't say no, it hadn't been, because there was a spell where Jaguars did have issues. From 09 onwards, they've really been a very different beast overall. My experience, so I'll give you a 7-year approximate ownership, really has just been regular maintenance items other than one item. Now there's always exceptions to the rule here. So basically in the last number of years, it's been oil changes. I believe about the year or two after I purchased the vehicle, it was time to change the serpentine belt, so that was changed. And really the only thing that I've had to deal with in a repair, knock on wood as we say, for good luck, is there's a small part of the coolant lines that actually runs through a molded plastic fitting that's just around the intake. It's currently hidden by that Jaguar cover, and it's molded and sonic welded together, and over time with age, so last year it started to seep right at the sonic welded seam. It just started with the heating and cooling, expanding, contraction, started to leak at the seam. So I had my mechanic replace that, who's specialized in European vehicles, and that repair with pulling it out, replacing it, the part, the additional coolant actually ran about $500 Canadian, which I think is a fairly reasonable cost for maintenance, and that's been it. And a lot of Jaguar owners of these XFs, the F-types, will actually tell you the same sort of thing. A couple other little features since we're out front, we'll point out there were a couple of grills available. This has the chrome grill. There was a blackout sport package available other than the XF Portfolio package. Up front we have halogens. We have high intensity discharge lights. The high intensity discharge gives you that brighter light at night. I actually have a preference for it over the actual LEDs that are available these days. And then I'm going to come forward here, and our main headlight here actually steers with your steering while you're on the road, so that as you go around corners, you've noticed, if you're a car lover like me, you know, you go around corners in a traditional vehicle, and if it's a really sharp winding turn, your lights are never following the turn. They're always a little off because your car is straight. What's nice with this Jaguar is that those lights will actually steer, will pivot with your steering to follow more of that road, keeping the light in front of you where you're going versus going off to the side. Anyways, I just thought I'd bring this quick little review of the 2012 Jaguar XF for those of you that might be looking at this as a pre-owned vehicle. Great little vehicle. You can find a number of these with low mileage that are just a blast to drive. Really gives you that sports car essence with the ability to go out and just have a nice night on the town and have that luxury with you, but also have the responsiveness that you'll want when you want to get out onto some back roads or you're just cruising down the highway. Anyways, if you like the video, please click the like button. Please subscribe. We're going to bring you more car videos and some upgrade videos. We're going to be trying some different things on this channel. And check out our sister channel at rvingtv, where we bring you RV reviews and product reviews for the RV lifestyle and general lifestyle overall. Thank you for watching, and check back soon for more automotive reviews.